Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. We are a community of many genders and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural and racial and class backgrounds, a community of varied abilities and gifts. I'm recording this message on Thursday morning, and this week I've heard from many of you that the political environment feels increasingly less safe for you and your loved ones. We are so glad you are here. The very first principle of Unitarian Universalism is recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every individual. And we are here to support you, to learn from you, to act with you. Within our diversity, what we share in common here at UUCA is that we all come for community, we find inspiration, and we live with purpose together. I am Linda Battolini, and this year I'm serving as the chair of the Board of Trustees. This is a particularly rewarding time to be in a leadership role, as our congregation offers the world a place of refuge, a place of peace, and a place for healing. Here we find companions for our personal journeys, and we can join together in so many ways. The physical distancing we need to maintain our health need not be social distancing, with the many programs and services available to you here. Our website and our Facebook page have continual updates of daily supportive and inspiring activities. You can begin by joining us in the Zoom coffee hour immediately following the service. We'll break into small groups and you'll have a chance to get to know 3 or 4 people a little bit better, and they'll have a chance to get to know you. I invite you to be kind to yourself these days and to find community here with us. Thank you.
Pre-recorded services are funny, aren't they? I recorded the bulk of this service last week and in the hours of Saturday morning, as you'll hear me share later during my reflection. A couple of hours after hitting submit and Reverend Walter pulling the service together, we got news that Biden had been elected President of the United States and Harris Vice President. I burst into tears. I burst into tears of relief for people I hope will be safer. I burst into tears of relief for my children and for the country, and you may have too. And that vote will not change everything. In fact, it will not change that many things right away. Our work will remain the same. And so in that spirit, we offer the service. We have prepared a service that anticipates the work ahead. And we do so knowing that we may all be feeling different emotions right now. And hoping that if among the feelings you have our relief, that you have found a way to celebrate and be together, to remind each other that we made it this far because of one another, and that we will need each other in the months to come and in the years to come, that we have always needed each other, and we do now still. Friends, I want to invite you to take a breath with me this morning. I want to invite you to be fully here, just for this time, to close the other browsers on your internet, to put your phone down, to sink into these words. Our call to worship this morning comes from Langston Hughes, the poet and a leader in the Harlem Renaissance. Langston Hughes wrote this poem in 1936, and I will share the beginning and end of the poem, though I encourage you to read all of it after the service. Let America be America again. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. At the end of the poem, Langston Hughes leaves us with these words. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath. America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again. Perhaps another breath with me. We know what has come before. We do not know what comes next. May we be together in this moment with what is, And may we honor Langston Hughes' words with a dream of what could one day be.
As we light our chalice this morning, I would like to lift up the words of Mary Church Terrell, the first president of the National Association of Colored Women and co-founder of the NAACP, as she addressed the National American Women's Suffrage Association in 1898. And so, lifting as we climb, onward and upward we go, struggling and striving, and hoping that the buds and blossoms of our desires will burst forth into glorious fruition ere long. Now, I invite you to join me as we light our chalice together. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world.
Every day to drop one more card. You take it on faith, you take it to the heart. The waiting is the hardest part. Last week I went and dropped my ballot in a box. I guess it's time to hold my breath for a while. Felt the tension like I feel right now. Maybe there's somebody who can show us all how to get through this election just by breathing in and out. Said yeah, 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 yeah. The waiting is the hardest part. Every day to drop one more card. You take it on faith, you take it to the heart. The waiting is the hardest part. Don't let it kill you, babe. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it kill you, babe. Don't let it get to you. We're gonna make it, babe. We're gonna make it through. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, the waiting is the hardest part. But one of these days they're gonna count our cards. Take it on faith, you take it to the heart. The waiting is the hardest part. The waiting is the hardest part.
Good morning, friends. How was your week this week? I hope you had a really good week, because there are a lot of people that didn't have such a great week this week. Maybe you've noticed that maybe your parents have been a little distracted this week. Maybe they've been looking at this map over here of the United States and they've been coloring in the state's different colors, red and blue. Maybe you've heard them say some weird things under their breath, like the words Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. This has been a tense week for a lot of the adults in our lives. because they're worried about who's going to be the president of the United States. Everybody has some really strong opinions about who the president should be. And when something's really important to us and we're waiting to see what's going to happen, we can get anxious. So maybe your parents have been anxious this week. And maybe some of the anxious your parents have been feeling, maybe it's been rubbing off on you. Oftentimes when our adults have strong feelings, we get those strong feelings too. I know I used to get those strong feelings when my mother would have them. So what do we do with those strong, cranky feelings? The one I think a lot of adults have been feeling, that maybe you're feeling as well, is one called anxiety. And anxiety is an interesting feeling because it's kind of a sadness, and it's kind of a scaredness, and it's kind of a tightness all bundled up. Sometimes we can say what's causing us anxiety. Sometimes we can't. And when we have that strong, icky, tense, scary feeling, it can be hard for us to figure out what to do with it. One of the things they talked about last week, Reverend Amanda and Miss Laura, in the Time for All Ages last week, do you remember the friend Boo? Him and his mom went out for a walk, and whenever Boo got angry or scared, his mama would remind him to just breathe. And that would make Boo feel better. I think when we feel those strong, icky feelings, that breathing is good. And sometimes what I do is I imagine I have birthday candles right on my hand. And sometimes I have 5 candles. Sometimes if I'm feeling really icky, I have 10. And I think to myself, just breathe. I'm going to imagine these are all lit candles. I'm going to go. I want a good, strong, slow breath to make sure they go out. None of that. Real slow, real big. Blow it out. And I'll do that for all of my candles. And I find that by the end of my candles, I might feel a little better. Usually I do. Sometimes that's not enough, though. One of the things that really helps me when I'm feeling icky is I like to create things. By create things, I mean like sometimes I like to draw certain pictures. I might draw how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll write a story. Sometimes I'll get my little figures out and I'll make a story with them. Sometimes I'll sing a song. I'll make up words to a song. Sometimes I'll do a dance. And I find that being creative takes that part of my brain that's feeling icky and kind of calms it down, pushes it back. And that allows me to feel better. So when I get those strong, icky feelings, I like to create things. One of the really good things to do is if you're having really strong, icky feelings like anxiety, and you don't know what else to do, is you talk to your adults about them. Let your adults know that I have this feeling and I can't make it go away. Can you help me? Can I just talk to you about what my feeling is? Can you just listen to me? And just letting your adults know how you're feeling. Sometimes that can be good, even when you just say it out loud. When you talk about the feelings without actually trying to solve it, sometimes when we just put words to our feelings, that makes us feel better. And one of the things that I like to do, if my feelings are really icky, is I get a change of scenery. Like I go here to the park. I might go outside and walk around my backyard. I might even just go into a different room. Going outside on a sunny day is always a great way to help your icky feelings get a little lesser. And asking your parents if they'll take you, or your adults if they'll take you somewhere, is always a good idea, if they can. Sometimes they can't, because adults have weird things they have to do. There's a lot of strong emotions right now. There's a lot of things that can be hard to feel. You don't have to be afraid of those feelings. You're allowed to feel them. A lot of times you need to feel them, but you need to work through them. And I want you all to know, all of my friends, both my younger friends and their adults, I love you all, and I want you to have the best feelings. Know you are loved, my friends, and I will see you soon.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be well.
Spirit of life and love, inexhaustible source and stream of forgiveness and compassion, we come together today to wade in that stream, to share in forgiveness, compassion, and healing. We give thanks for all that we have received. We revel in our individuality, our uniqueness, and we acknowledge that only in community can we live deeply and share healing. Together, may we have the strength to fight the righteous fights that must be fought. May we have the courage to bear the pain that pierces our hearts. And may we have the compassion to open our hearts even to those who have closed their hearts against us. May we remember, if we lean on each other and reach out to the power that transcends us, if we remain faithful to our principles of love and justice, if we forgive ourselves and each other, then we can be sustained by connections with each other and our connection with the holy. So shall we become the healers and the healed. And so may it always be. Amen.
The title of this service is Healing Takes Its Own Time. I remember planning for this Sunday with the rest of staff back in late August. We had a feeling that the Sunday after Election Day, we would not know everything. And we tried to plan a title that would give space for that. So either we were very clever, or you can blame us for this week of waiting. I am recording on Saturday morning when we know some things and we don't know some things. And although we may know more things by the time we watch this together on Sunday morning, I also expect we will still not know everything. Perhaps for many days. Perhaps for many weeks. Perhaps for many decades. Friends. I mean, we will know, of course, the results of the election at some point. We will know what the next step is in our country's national government. But we will be learning, I think, for a long time about this moment in our nation's history, about what it means for us, about what it has meant, what has led up to it, and about where we go from here, about what the healing really can look like, or should look like, or might look like, and about how long it will take. Already, pundits and authors and thinkers far more brilliant than I are trying to detail what happened, what people in America are thinking, what people in Trump's America are thinking, as though there are two totally different countries here. Next week, Reverend Walter will explore a little more the work of healing our country's divide, of building relationships across difference, and also of centering those on the margins, on how those two things may conflict or be together our work. There is a lot that we don't know. And there are things we do know. There's not really Trump's America, just America. I don't pretend to understand the reason for every person's vote, no matter who they voted for. And every person deserves to be understood as complicated the way people are. I do imagine that we know some reasons for the ways any of us may have voted. We know that racism and white supremacy are part of why we are here as Americans, as America. Then again, I think that racism and white supremacy are always a part of why America is where America is at any given moment. We know that, as James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. White America has work to do. Those of us who are part of that one America, who identify as white, we have work to do to continue to face our history, to face perhaps our surprise that this is where America is, a surprise that is not always shared by our siblings of color. We know that millions and millions of Americans continue to feel disconnected from the electoral process, even at this election with the largest voter turnout since 1900. We know we saw the largest voter turnout since 1900, and that is something to celebrate. We know that in our country, people believe things that are factually different, that they believe to be factually true, based often on the media that they consume. And lest you think the they is always other people, I have shared information I later found out to be false. We know that coalitions are being built, have been built and will be built and strengthened, and that the work there is not done. We know, I think, that the Electoral College is perhaps not the best instrument to convey the will of the people writ large. We know a record number of racially diverse LGBTQ candidates were elected to office this year. We know, perhaps, that everything is more complicated than it may at first appear. The subtitle of this sermon perhaps could be just that: America, it's complicated. As Langston Hughes reminded us in our call to worship this morning. America, a beautiful dream that has never been fulfilled. What I have been thinking about in these past few days, as I have waited along with all of you, is what is our work, my work, we at UUCA, we who are also not a monolith, nuanced and complicated, carrying different identities, reading different op-eds to explain it all. What is our work in the days and the weeks and the years to come? This week, a lot of our work has been really self-care. It's been taking deep breaths and distracting ourselves as needed and staying connected with each other and waiting. And as Leah Morris sang this morning, the waiting is hard. Those ways of caring for ourselves, They help us through this time, and they also build our strength and resilience for what comes next, for what we need to face as a country together. Because I will tell you, friends, the what comes next may not be radically different. Even as we learn more and more about the results of this election, we know that there is work to do. There will be work to do the rest of November. There will be work to do in January, and there will be work to do for years to come, as there has been through all of America's history. And so we take care of ourselves to make it through this time of waiting, and we take care of ourselves for the work we have to do together. For some of us in this past week, that work has been about protecting voters, about protecting voting in our democracy, making sure that people have been able to vote safely. And that work does not end. It is also part of the ongoing story of America. One of the things I have loved this week is seeing that UU The Vote, who provided such leadership moving toward Election Day, continues to provide it. In fact, more and more people are joining their Facebook group and clicking and learning, attending their vigil on Thursday evening, showing up for what is next in the work against voter suppression. This past week, I know many of you were phone banking and text banking, sending last-minute postcards, or showing up at polling sites on Tuesday. I've asked Reverend Walter to share a story from his day on Tuesday as an election defender.
Many of you know that this past Tuesday on Election Day, I spent the time from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. being a poll watcher here at the Hobson Masonic Lodge in the city of Richmond. And I want to tell you about an incident we had, and it kind of has to deal with some systems of power that we need to pay attention to. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is that red door back there. This is where the polling was, behind this red door. This is where the voters were. This spot where I'm standing now is where we had some electioneering campaigners who were advocating for different city council candidates. As you can see, this distance is beyond the 40 feet mark, which is approximately right here. Now, what happened is we had some people who were electioneering, and some of the poll workers thought they were getting a little close. And so what they did is they decided to call some of the poll officials from the city of Richmond. While the poll workers from the city of Richmond were on their way, some members from the Masonic Lodge set up at this point a station filled with coffee and donuts for the voters who were lining up down here. As you can see, this distance where the table was and where the door is beyond the 40 feet mark. The people from the Masonic Lodge were well within their right to have their table there to welcome voters. But what happened is, when finally the poll workers came by from the city of Richmond to see what was going on, they focused on the table of coffee and donuts. A table that was being manned by 5 black men in suits. And they told them, this white poll worker, that these 5 black men in suits needed to leave because they were causing too much chaos handing out donuts and coffee, even though this is literally their property. They were the Masons who congregate in this building. They were well beyond the 40 feet that, from the polling location. And yet, what happened was this, near the end of the exchange between one of the Masons and that poll worker.
As long as we are bipartisan, we can stand where we are.
I'm going to arrange a ride for you somewhere in a minute.
All right.
We know that offering a ride is a euphemism. for sending someone to jail in this instance. I was here with poll defenders to defend voters from intimidation from outside forces, from people who were trying to take the election into their own hands. And instead we had to record an incident to protect voters from the systems in power. There's still a lot of work to be done, and one election's not going to fix it. But I am glad that it's at least a start.
The racism that Reverend Walter witnessed and shared about in his story is repeated around the country at sites of voter suppression. Many of us have also seen the beauty that can happen when we work against voter suppression, particularly this week in the state of Georgia, with record voter turnout in large part because of the work of Fair Fight, the organization that Stacey Abrams founded. Perhaps, like me, you have been thinking of Stacey Abrams as a hero. I was reminded of the importance of remembering the collective by minister and justice worker Reverend Alicia Crosby. Reverend Crosby says, "Out of her own mouth, Stacey Abrams is telling you she didn't do this by herself. Listen, learn, and embrace the truth that working for a more just world is a collective work. What happened in Georgia and elsewhere happened because different people offered what they had for movement." Reverend Crosby reminds us that this work, our work, is long-haul work nationally and locally, and it is collective work. Work that invites us to pass the baton, to share the load, to show up as leaders and as followers in solidarity and in coalition. The Reverend Dr. Barber of the Poor People's Campaign reminds us that if our coalition is comfortable, it is probably too small. This work will require us, will invite us, will allow us to be welcomed into places where we have not been before, to welcome in people we have not worked with before, and to resist the hero's story in favor of remembering that relationship is why we are here. Relationship is the foundation of the collective work that our country needs. As the Reverend Teresa Inés Soto says, and as I have quoted at least 3 times already at UUCA, all of us need all of us to make it. That collective work, that long-haul work also means facing hard realities, as Baldwin's quote reminded us earlier, of looking honestly, particularly those of us who are white, listening and learning so that we can understand an America that we have perhaps not ourselves experienced. I remember in 2016 the surprise that I felt by the outcome of the election. And I remember talking to friends who were people of color who were not surprised. That was a learning for me, an invitation to growth and understanding. And we have more learning to do, we who are white in America, more facing to do. At the same time, we want to do that work grounded in love, grounded in invitation, grounded in welcoming in, whether you have started this work just a moment ago, or whether you have been doing it for 40 and 50 years. So that our white friends and family know they are always welcome into that coalition, into that work of anti-racism, grounded in love, hard truths, faced with love. So we stay calm and take care of ourselves, building our own strength. We work to make sure that all voices and votes are counted. We do that in coalition as broad as possible, centering relationship. We face hard truths, listening particularly to voices that have been on the margins. We do that facing with love and welcome. And what about joy? Where do we find joy these days? Where have you found it? In the memes, perhaps, that people have shared while waiting? In the connections we have made with each other? I've asked intern minister Laura to share a story about her day as an election defender and the joy that she found there.
On Tuesday, Lancaster, Pennsylvania was chilly, but sunny and clear. I was the only CASA volunteer at my site for most of the day, although there was a man from another organization serving a similar purpose. There were many beautiful moments. People voting for the first time at age 61 and 75. Young people who turned 18 just in the nick of time, calling their friends from the voting line to say, "What do you mean she hasn't voted yet? Tell her to get down here right now and say, I said this is important." There was a 95-year-old who told me she was voting for probably the last time. And a Spanish-speaking woman who let me know she couldn't read, but she was ready to vote anyway. And there were two people electioneering, one for each party, and both of them were antagonistic and behaving poorly. There was a steady stream of voters throughout most of the day, and we had a number of challenging issues, including several situations requiring de-escalation. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed and lonely and just done. And then, a group of Unitarian Universalists, including the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray, showed up at my polling site. They had music with loudspeakers, they had cookies, and mostly they brought an infusion of joy. We did the cha-cha slide and danced to everything from Cotton Eye Joe to K-pop. Suddenly, I was filled with meaning again. Not because anything was taken away. All the same people, all the same ideologies, all the same behaviors lingered in the air. But the power of joy and the power of our faith was also there. And more importantly, it was louder than anything else.
So how do we hold the joy while also holding the disappointment and the waiting and the fear and the work to do and the learning to come and just the allness of it? Perhaps that is our greatest work, to be present to the allness, to the complication. The Langston Hughes poem I shared during the call to worship has always been a favorite of mine. Somehow Langston Hughes manages to be both honest about all the ways that America has failed him, has failed, as he writes in the center of the poem, the poor white fooled and pushed apart, the Negro bearing slavery's scars, the red man driven from the land, the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. Hughes sugar-coated nothing. Doubt he would have been surprised by where America is today, by the work that we have to do to face our past and to see how the system of white supremacy hurts all of us. And at the same time, he spoke of hope for America, for what America could be. Oh, let America be America again. the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free, America's reality and America's dream. Langston Hughes was able to hold both of those things to be true together in this heartbreaking poem. And that perhaps is what we are called to do, to hold them both together, to hold our lament in this moment and our hope, because we need both of them, I think, for the work of justice. And to hold through all of that our presence with each other, even knowing that each one of us may be holding different emotions in this moment, may experience America quite differently, may have our own stories and struggles, our own commitment toward the fight for justice. Yet still, we are together in this waiting, in the next steps, in America. Shauna Bowman, a Presbyterian pastor, shared words for this moment, and I'd like to leave you with them. Knowing we won't know and sitting in the not knowing are not the same. We are in this together for the short term and the long haul. We see each other, and we know that the only path to wholeness is through the rough terrain of truth-telling and repair work that will be required no matter the outcome of this election. We will feed each other and care for each other, meeting despair with tender compassion and anxiety with deep peace. We will reach for the visions and dreamcasts of our ancestors and conspire for a kind of peace and liberation that will set us loose in ways our opponents can't even imagine. Breathe now, so you are restored for the resistance. Breathe deep, so you are grounded in love. Take courage, and remember, you are not alone. May it be so.
I'm sure that I'm not alone when I say that this week has been particularly challenging. But it's in these moments of challenge and in times like we've faced this week where I truly appreciate being part of the UUCA community. From opportunities to gather with UUs across the country through UU the Vote, to chances to be in fellowship with other folks within our congregation, to opportunities to connect with our pastoral team. Weeks like this remind me why it's so important to be connected to a community like UUCA. It's brought me peace in times of trouble, and just knowing that those opportunities are there has been in the back of my mind throughout this week. If you feel similarly, I hope that you'll consider donating during our offertory to support the ongoing ministry of the church. There are many ways you can donate: by visiting our website, by writing a check to UUCA with the word offering in the memo line. You can even text your donation. So I hope you'll consider showing your appreciation for what UUCA has meant to you in this past week. And now I'd like to read the words to the dedication of the offering. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
Healing takes its own time. Our work now to take care of ourselves and each other, to make sure all voices and votes are counted, to build coalitions centering relationship and those on the margins, to face hard truths with love, to find joy where we can, to hold the allness of this moment together. Amen. And blessings to you and all of us in the week ahead.